Hey guys, I hope you guys are having an amazing day so far. This is the Paul and Jasic YouTube channel. Of course, this isn't Jasic. He could not make this, but we have a little special guest. Introduce yourself.
My name's Jack. I'm just Jasic without the E.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about our example as Christians. And for this video, we're going to talk about 3 virtues that you could really grow in to be a better example as a Christian in our society, and why all those things are important and why being an example is important, if you already did not know. So first, the 3 virtues are love, humility, and sacrifice. First, we're going to start out with love. And just so we can get a little definition of what love is, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians verses 4 through 13. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. For as tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For our knowledge is imperfect, and our prophecy is imperfect. But when the perfect comes, the imperfect will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, thought as a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in the mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall fully understand, even I have been fully understood. So faith, hope, and love abide, these 3, but the greatest of these is love. Now as Christians, loving someone looks a little bit different than what the world says love is. You know, sometimes love is supporting everyone in everything they do. But for us, love is wanting the best. Like, truly, love is wanting the best for the other person. So stuff like that is not letting them stay in sin and telling them the right thing in a loving way. Like, love does not come from any, like, hatred, jealousy, or lust. Don't confuse any of that with that. But when we're trying to, you know, want the best for someone and talk to them about it, we come from a place of, like, wanting the best for them and not out of, like, any of those things I just mentioned. What you got in love?
Yeah, you know, kind of how I think of it is like, you know, it's really easy to love someone, you know, when they show you love and they're really, you know, kind to you. You know, it's easy, you know, but it's harder to show love when you're not shown that, or even, you know, when someone maybe shows that they dislike you or don't love you, or maybe they, you know, you can hate people. Maybe someone hates you, you know. Yeah. It's just a strong word, but, you know, I'm sure we all know a lot of people. There might be at least a few people in our lives that might say, yeah, I hate that person, you know. So, you know, I think you got to show love. And obviously, you know, love, not love as in like, you know, the way you might always think of it, but how Paul kind of described it is, you know, wanting the best for that person, wanting them to see that person as an ultimate goal, you know, get to heaven, you know?
Yeah, like, I love that. Just, like, doing things, regardless of what they have done to you, still loving them, and, like, as a brother and sister in Christ. Now, for humility. Humility is, like, a really hard one for me, I would say for most people. And it's sometimes hard for us to realize that. Like, the sin of pride is the most deadly of all sins, just because it keeps us from conquering most sins. But being an example in humility is like putting others before ourselves. Like, Jesus was the perfect example of humility. He literally washed the feet of the apostles and other people. He literally created us. He's our king, and he still did that. And I mean, he's humble. He literally went and died on the cross for us, which, first of all, is the greatest act of love, sacrifice, and humility, which is a great thing to look at. But in that humility sense, he put ourselves before him. Like, he loves us so much that he would go and die for us. And that's kind of how we got to be for other people. You know, we got to be, like, putting others before ourselves, you know, letting others prosper before our own desires. And when other people see that and see that example that we put, you know, letting others, you know, be glorified instead of us and being humble about everything, they're going to want to follow in those footsteps. And they'll, you know, start to ask questions like, how is this person so humble? And then it kind of roots back to Jesus.
Yeah, I think, being humble can get confused with like, oh, you can't have this nice watch, you can't drive this nice car. Like that's not really what it means. You obviously you don't want to, you'd rather donate to a homeless shelter than like, have a car full of 30 cars, or a garage full of like 30 cars. But like, you can be humble and have those things. Like being humble, like, just putting others, if not first, putting them high up in your life. You obviously put God first, but you really want to make sure you put others, pretty high up there with where you put God, because it's obviously kind of like going back to what I said. Your goal is to get yourself to heaven, but also others. And being humble, it not only shows the example, but it also helps out with that.
That's perfect. All right, now on to sacrifice. Now, we both have something to say on sacrifice. Now, I would say sacrifice as Christians is not fitting the mold of the world. There's a lot of things that are like accepted in our world that would be seen as like sacrificing. Like I would say maybe like sex before marriage, drinking, smoking, vaping, all that type of stuff. And for a lot of people, that's a sacrifice to make, like obviously like the whole world accepts it. That's something that like is desired among a lot of people. But as Christians, we have to make a sacrifice to be able to not do those things and live by example and be joyous, because you're going to get joy out of not doing those things. Those things will just get you, that's not lasting happiness. That's like temporary happiness. But actually not doing those things and resisting from them and finding what actually is good will give you actual joy. So we have a little, buddy system where we hold each other accountable on those things. And it's been amazing. I want to say buddy system. I'll just say like, as brothers in Christ.
It's been amazing.
It has been very good.
It's been great.
No, it is actually one of the best
good.
things. It's been really good. Like we have grown so much with Jesus and like as brothers in Christ, and it's helped us so much in a lot of areas. And it's also like inspiring to others. If you live that way and you're still like that joyous, they're going to be like, how is this person having so much fun? They don't drink, they don't have sex before marriage, they don't do all that stuff, but they're still this joyous. I want that. And they're going to start, seeking something else.
Yeah, I think you said it. Like we obviously, you guys know how college goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of people drink. Almost everyone does. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes on. And obviously, what Paul was talking about, the little buddy system we do. We hold each other accountable. We don't drink, we don't smoke, and we don't do any of that stuff. But we're not saying we're perfect people, right?
Yeah. Everyone makes mistakes.
That's like one sin we don't do. It's one thing we fix. We've controlled in our lives. But everyone sins. You'll never be perfect. But you gotta. Obviously, you try your best to set the example, like he was talking about. You do what you can.
Yeah, like also like sacrifice could be like giving up your phone or doing all those other things that like bring you away from God, and like you kind of realize are like bringing you away from what He has for you. Like it's probably good to like sacrifice some of those things, not like fully give them up in some circumstances, but like try your best to not do them.
Like I don't know if Paul will keep this in the video, but like one thing we're not very good at is like Instagram Reels.
I have a problem with that.
Like I don't know if he's gonna put this in the video or not, but like we like just to like as an example, we're not like obviously no one's perfect, but just like we both like to scroll some Instagram Reels, and like it gets to a problem. Where, like,
it gets to a point.
It's like damn, we're spending like way too much time on our phones.
Yeah, and that's something that we are trying to do better at.
We're trying, but like it's not something.
And your problems won't go away immediately. It takes time, and God will give you tests on to get better at those things. But now we're gonna tie all those three things together and why our example is so important. Now, you guys probably know about street preaching and how that goes, and obviously love the thought there, but I personally don't think that is the best way to reach people. I think the best way to reach people is actually living out our lives as Christians and actually what Jesus intended to us. Like, whenever I see a street preacher, I'm not gonna lie, like, especially when I was like really lukewarm, like, I always hated it. I'm like, why is this dude here, bro? This is really annoying. I don't want to hear this right now. Now, I feel like that's how most people feel about that. But what's something all people are looking for is joy and happiness. And if we can live out that joy and happiness, like, through virtue, and people see that and they realize, like, man, I kind of want that life. I want that person's life. They're going to start, like, searching for God and, like, what we have, which is why it's so important that we actually, like, live out, like, being a Christian. Like, being a Christian, like, you can't just say you're a Christian and then obviously people are, like, flawed, but, like, if you're not trying to change your whole life around and actually live by the way God has for us, we're not, you're not giving a good representation of what an actual Christian should be like. We're all sinners at the end of the day, but we're all trying our best to be better. And if you're not trying to be, the best you can and, like, grow with Jesus, then you're not really, being a Christian. You're just saying you're a Christian and then living a worldly life, which we're actually called to be a Christian and try our best to lead a life like Jesus.
Yeah. And I don't know if everyone's watching this video is totally, maybe if you got this far in the video, you obviously you're familiar with Jesus, but, like, if you don't know, like, Jesus provides, like, unending faith, or not faith, what's the word? Grace is the word.
Yes.
Like, he gives you forgiveness. Like, no matter how far away you've gotten from him, like, you can come back, like, the most terrible things, you can, like, he will forgive you. There's nothing God won't forgive. And obviously, like Paul was talking, it's important you try your best, but obviously not everyone is going to be able to give it their best at all times. And it's important to know that, you will be forgiven, like I was saying. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to end on this. Especially someone who could be a non-believer. Think about how, like, your actions could wrongly affect someone in the wrong direction and give them a bad idea about Jesus. We're called to be little Jesuses as Christians. We're called to reflect his image. So when you're just, like, out doing nothing, or just, like, out whatever you guys are doing, probably classes or whatever, going about your day, just have a smile on your face. Have a smile on your face and just embody the love of Jesus, and people will see that, and by your example, you could change so many people's lives. Yeah. We love all you guys. We hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Be little Jesuses.
Be little Jesuses. We'll see you guys.